Hi, good evening. This is Venkat Krishna. I will talk about BRI. What is this BRI and who started it and who is supporting it and who is opposing it? Why it became one of the most controversial project in the world? For this, answer is first of all, it started by the China. BRI stands for the Belt and Road Initiative. It started by Xi Jinping when he became to the president of the China. Then he started this project. Up to 2016, they call it as a one belt and one road. From the 2016 onwards, they are calling it as a Belt and Road Initiative. It's an infrastructure and a developmental project with a 1 trillion USD. In Indian currency, it's almost equal to 72 lakh crore rupees. Why they are investing a lot of money? 72 lakh crore in the world. All over the world, they are investing with the name of BRI. Why they are investing this much money in the world and what they are saying, and why others are criticizing when they are investing? As I told in another video, China has a lot of foreign reserves. Their foreign reserves is a 3.1 trillion USD. If they put that money in their home country, they won't get any interest. But if they give this money to other countries with the name of loans, they will get the interest also. With that purpose, they are investing all over the world with the name of development. And one more thing is, they wanted to have a grip on the world. It became the second biggest economy in the world, and they have an eye on the first place. They wanted to the superpower country in the world. Superpower they wanted. So they wanted to occupy the USA place. So for that purpose, simply they are investing in foreign countries with the name of development. They are giving all these loans, 1 trillion USD, to all other countries, and they are getting the interest, and they are getting the power from that countries also. So far they invested 450 billion USD, and more than 60 countries joined in this BRI, and especially Western countries like Europe, USA, Australia, Canada, including India, is also opposing this BRI. Why they are opposing? Because they don't want Chinese expansionism. The Western countries are calling it as a Chinese expansionism, and the China is calling it as a developmental projects. With the name of BRI, they have been constructing a lot of developmental projects like flyovers, roads and railway tracks and thermal power plants and ports. So it's a belt and road initiative. For the roads they are investing, and for the railway tracks they are investing, and for the seaway transport they are investing in ports also. They are constructing in ports also. Most of the countries joined in this club. Now it became the most controversial when some of the Europe countries joined in this BRI, because most of the Europe countries are opposing. At the same time, some of the countries in the Europe, they are supporting this BRI. Recently, Hungary and Greece, these countries joined. After that, Switzerland and Italy also joined. Italy is a G7 country. It's a first G7 country who joined in this BRI. So when this Italy joined, most of the developed countries alerted. Why from then onwards they started criticizing it as debt trap diplomacy. It's a true. Why they are calling it as a debt trap diplomacy? Because they are giving these for the loans for the high interest, 7%, 8%, 9% also. And these countries, especially they are investing in the developing countries, not in the developed countries. Developed countries, so far they have not shown any interest, but some of the countries like Italy, Greece and Switzerland shown interest. Very few countries join. So especially these developing countries always looks for the investments. Now China has an opportunity in that. So for that they are investing in these developing countries. They invested in almost South Asian countries and East Asian countries and Southeast Asian countries also. Many victims are there for this project. If you take only in South Asia, Colombo, Sri Lanka and Maldives are the victims, and Pakistan is also victim of this project, and Malaysia is also victim of this project from the East Asian country, Southeast Asian countries. So I mean, in the Sri Lanka, they have constructed Hambaranuru port with more than, it's a billions of dollar project. After that, Sri Lanka failed to pay back the EMIs because it's a not viable project. It's a unviable project. They failed to pay back the EMIs and they failed to pay back the loans. So China handed over this project for the 99 years, and they purchased some of the islands from the Maldives also. Maldives also facing the, big crisis from this debt trap diplomacy. Now Pakistan is facing on our western side. Some of the African countries also joined and they are also facing this problem because they are giving for a high interest. Assume, I will give an example. Suppose they are investing 2 billion USD in the Sri Lanka for the constructing the ports or for constructing the railway tracks. If they are giving $1 billion or $2 billion loan to the Sri Lanka for constructing the railway track, the conditions for that is they need to get the raw materials for constructing the railway tracks from the China itself. That means Chinese companies are benefiting by exporting it to the Sri Lanka, and at the same time they are getting the interest for this project also. They don't mind whether it is viable or non-viable. If they feel it is unviable, after some point of time they will hand over that project and they will try to have a grip on that country. So in that aspect they are trying to get the grip all over the world. There Western countries started criticizing the China because now Maldives under the crisis, and Sri Lanka is in crisis, Malaysia is in crisis, Pakistan is in crisis, and they invested in most of the Central Asian countries also, and they laid railway track up to the Spain, that connects from China to the Spain. It's one of the longest railway track in the world. So they are investing almost all over the world. Why these European countries are joining then? Because so far if we observe, most of the developing countries join because developing countries always looks for the investments. But what about the developed countries? Still developed countries also facing the economic recession, Greece, Italy. So especially China also targeted Southern Europe and Central and Eastern Europe. Most of the Western and Northern Europe developed countries like Germany, France, UK, all these countries are Norway, Denmark. So all these countries are developed countries. They are not looking for the investments. But southern part of the Europe and eastern part of the European countries are developing countries. So they are looking for the infrastructure investments or developmental project investments. So China is taking it as opportunity and they are investing. And the same it applicable to the southern part of the Europe also. Italy, Greece, Switzerland, all these countries joined. And they also invested in the Latin America also. In Latin America, it invested in Argentina and Brazil and Chile. In all these countries they invested. And they invested so far 450 billion USD, and still their target is 550 billion USD. Is there any benefit for the India with the BRI and Belt and Road Initiative? India strongly opposed BRI because of the CPEC. CPEC is also part of the BRI, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So it is passing through the Pak-occupied Kashmir. So India has strongly raised her voice because it's violating the India's sovereignty. It's going through Pak-occupied Kashmir. So we don't want to be a member of that project. What are the consequences if India joins, and what is the benefits if India don't joins? So for that, if India joins in this club officially, indirectly, we recognized Pak-occupied Kashmir as a Pakistan part. So India don't want to be part of BRI in that aspect. And even still we have some of the projects with China, like Bangladesh, Myanmar, India and China, connectivity roads, and we have some of the other connectivity roads also, like through the Nepal and all. At the same time, China invested in the Southeast Asia also. They invested lot of the, they laid lot of the roads and they constructed the many railway tracks, and they are planning to invest for the bullet trains also in the Southeast Asian countries. So India has strongly criticized this BRI and he did not join in this BRI also. But more than 60 countries in the world they joined. So I mean they are investing, I mean like earlier. And one more thing, interesting fact I wanted to say here is they opened Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB. So earlier, I mean IMF or World Bank and Asia Development Bank, these banks, especially these banks, dominated all over the world for giving the loans. So now China want to give loans to the developing countries for this BRI project. So I mean they are using AIB bank and Exports and Imports Bank they are using. So I mean they started one of the powerful bank with the name of AIB. More than 50 countries joined in that bank and India also joined in that bank. And with the name of, through AIB they are giving the loans to these developing countries for the BRI project. India should be very, very conscious about the BRI because it's almost rounded. It rounded the India, with the name of BRI. If we look at the western part, they occupied, they rounded India from the western side, with the name of CPEC. And in southern part, they rounded India in the Maldives, and in Sri Lanka they occupied the Hambarenu port, and in Bay of Bengal they have taken the Coco Islands, and in Bangladesh they have taken the Chittagong port, and in Myanmar they have one port, and in the Sri Lanka and Malaysia also they have taken one port. That means it's almost surrounded from west to east through south, and northern side they are neighbor to us. So India should be very, very conscious on this project. To balance this, India is doing friendship with the USA and Japan also. To control the China, we need to follow the balancing mechanism like USA and Japan and Australia. So we have joined with these 4 countries to balance this China. And India also joined with Japan for developmental projects. They are going to have an agreement with Sri Lanka to expand the Colombo port with the help of Japan and India. So these 2 countries are going to invest in Colombo. And also we are planning to go for the Africa also. To counter to the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. Hope India will also do best to counter the China, and at any time India should be very, very cautious to for this Belt and Road Initiative. Hope India will invest in other countries and India will also get a power or will get a grip on foreign countries. Thanks for watching.